Welcome back to Talking Dragon Age, the show where I talk about Dragon Age. This episode is all about Ghilan'nain. All the elven gods have some weird stuff going on with them, but Ghilan'nain is a bit of an enigma even among them. The Dalish consider Ghilan'nain to be the goddess of navigation and mother to Halla. Let's start by taking a look at this codex entry which talks about her alleged apotheosis.
Ghilan'nain kept herself apart from the people. She used her power to create animals none had ever seen. The skies teemed with her monsters, the land with her beasts. Andruil hunted them all, and after a year of killing, approached Ghilan'nain with an offer. The gods would share their power with Ghilan'nain, but only if she destroyed her creations, for they were too untamed to remain among the people. Ghilan'nain agreed and asked for 3 days to undo what she had made. On the first day, she struck down the monsters of the air, except those she presented to Andruil as a gift. On the second day, she drowned the giants of the sea, except those in deep waters, for they were too well wrought, and pride stopped her hand. On the third day, she killed the beasts of the land, except the Halla, whose grace she loved above all else. This is how Ghilan'nain was made youngest of the gods.
So Ghilan'nain made a bunch of creatures. The Evanuris weren't too happy about that. So eventually, Andruil came and said, "Okay, tell you what, you destroy these creatures you made, and we'll offer you a place among the Evanuris." Ghilan'nain agreed and destroyed all but the most beloved of her creations, which apparently did not violate the terms of the agreement, even though it quite clearly violated the terms of the agreement. I'll just assume Andruil convinced the others to let it slide because she had a bit of a crush on Gilly. Oh yeah, that's another thing. Andruil and Ghilan'nain were supposedly lovers. One other thing is noteworthy about this entry. Here it says, "Pride stopped her hand." It's hard to tell because Inquisition's font is stupid, but pride is capitalized. And as we all know, Solus is the elven word for pride. If capitalized, that may imply that our very own Solus stopped Ghilan'nain from destroying some kind of sea monster. Now this could be a development mistake, or in world it could be allegory, it could be a fallacy, misinterpretation, etc. Something else that makes this interesting is not just that it's found in the Temple of Mythal, but that it's written by an unknown author. I mentioned this last time, but most of the codex entries for elven stuff come from a known and traceable source. I'm not entirely sure what to do with this just yet, but since this is a first-hand account and not a result of historical research, I think this bears more weight. I mean, it still has a lot of embellishments and myth added to it, but I think it's still reliable if you know that going in. So what else do we have on Ghilan'nain? Well, we have some stuff from Trespasser, particularly this codex entry for notes on methods of enchantment, collected by exploring the optional areas via the crossroads. Down at the bottom, possibly in lieu of a signature, is a stamp of a stylized Halla head. Many have taken this to mean Ghilan'nain personally wrote this. I'm not certain about that. It could also be someone who worshipped Ghilan'nain, or someone working for her. Based on the text, I'm fairly confident this was written at the time of Elvenan. Other than the fact that she may have been involved with this entry, there's not much to say on Ghilan'nain here. It does say here that, as a courtesy, the writer explained to the stock she was working with that this was well worth it. It's possible the author was talking about slaves, or perhaps spirits, or even animals. I could believe any of them. Moving on, I want to take some time to talk about these murals we find around Inquisition. Here we notice a silhouette of a white figure with hollow horns, which we can reasonably assume to represent Ghilan'nain. Behind said figure is the depiction of a bear. Now, the bear is the chosen animal of Dirthamen, the god of secrets. Is the bear in the mural meant to be protecting the Halla Mother, or is it attacking her? Let's take a look at some codex entries. We have this one for the mighty Fen'Harel, which details the legend of its creation. It says Dirthamen was the one responsible for creating it, although Ghilan'nain is usually the one responsible for creating creatures in most other legends. It's important to remember that just because that was Ghilan'nain's thing, doesn't mean the others were incapable of doing the same. But I still have to wonder if Dirthamen and Ghilan'nain were working together. Or maybe his creation of the Fen'Harel got her attention. I mean, the Fen'Harel is clearly more artificial than creatures like Halla or whatever sea monsters. But I bring up that possible connection because the next entry I want to talk about is one from the Temple of Mythal, which says there was a sinner that belonged to Dirthamen who took wings at the urging of Ghilan'nain and flew in the shape of the divine, which was considered heresy. The sinner belonged to Dirthamen, which strongly suggests they were a slave. Given what we know of the Forgotten Ones, I could buy it was one of them. Though I also mentioned in another video that it could have been Malvernus, the secret ghostly dragon from the Legacy DLC for DA2. Regardless, the sinner took wings at the urging of Ghilan'nain. Assuming the sinner told the truth, why did Ghilan'nain encourage him to do this? Was it to undermine Dirthamen? Or perhaps sow discord among the Evanuris? And what made this sinner so special? Did Dirthamen choose him or her specifically? That certainly seems like something the God of Secrets would do. Select a promising person and let Ghilan'nain encourage them to take flight, thereby masking his own involvement. The question remains as to why, but I'd say an equally important question is how. As evidenced by the Well of Sorrows, the knowledge of becoming a dragon was reserved for the gods and their high priests. Being able to shapeshift into a dragon, let alone a high or great dragon, is not an easy thing to do. So did Ghilan'nain teach the sinner, or did she allow him to obtain the knowledge on his own by stealing it from something similar to the Well of Sorrows? If this was a valued slave of Dirthamen, perhaps he had access to some of his secrets and was thus able to steal from his master. This is all theoretical, of course. But there's another possibility I should at least mention. The sinner claims he took wings at the urging of Ghilan'nain, but that may not be entirely true. For one, he could be outright lying. Perhaps Dirthamen told him to claim that. Again, it's possible Dirthamen and Ghilan'nain were working together or working against each other whenever this took place. Well, if he's not lying, then it could be that Ghilan'nain becoming a god is what inspired the sinner to act, thinking, if she became a god, why can't I? Again, all theoretical. Most of those theories are pretty unique, and it could be that any of them are true or none of them. So let's recap Ghilan'nain. She created a bunch of creatures which caught the attention of the Evanuris. I should mention that we don't actually know how Ghilan'nain created these creatures. I mean, the easy answer is that thought shaped reality due to the lack of the veil. But then what made these creatures so special? What made Ghilan'nain special? Why couldn't anyone do this? Well, Andruil, whom it is sometimes suggested was in fact Ghilan'nain's lover, chose to elevate her to the ranks of the Evanuris. I may say more about that in my episode for Andruil. Ghilan'nain seems to have been involved with several events concerning the Evanuris, and it's unclear whether this was by her own design. Of course, the tales we get on the Evanuris were just the tip of the iceberg, considering just how long their history must truly be. So I guess that's where I'll wrap this up, guys. Thank you all so much for watching. Don't forget to comment and like, and remember, Tala Nadas.